Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another session of our Tech Thursday today. Today we have Miss Sallie Mobley from FMLS. We are very happy to have her this morning. She's going to be going over Remine and everything with Remine today for our agents. Again, we are super happy to have her. And Miss Sallie, whenever you are ready, you can go ahead and start and take the show.
All right, thank you. Very excited to be here today. Once again, I'm Sallie Mobley with FMLS, and for your hashtag Tech Thursday for Maximum One, we're going to talk about Remine, and I'm going to explain a couple of items that we have going on right now with regard to transition and the tools that you have available to you for Remine as a member of FMLS. So take a look at my PowerPoint. The first thing would be, what is it and why do we have it? If you've ever used a tax system to look up public records, you know that the more information you can get about property, the better off you are in your research. So when this new player came into the market, our board took a look at it and really liked what they saw with regard to the gathering of information on property. And so hence came the product Remine about 1.5 years ago. And literally you can, with our site license, get into any property in the state of Georgia and look up a lot of information, plus nationwide. So Remine is all about what I call the blue dot in the system. And basically, when you click on a blue dot on a property, you have access to hundreds of sources of information that Remine is going out and grabbing for a property so that you can be more educated about it. They're very big on what I call, they say actionable intelligence right here on this slide. And they want to help you as an agent be able to make a smarter decision to dig deeper into a neighborhood. So Remine itself is a search engine, to search data. And that was the first tool that we got with this product and this vendor. Take a look at this slide. This is a lot. When you go into Remine in general, you're looking for basically the capability of what I call predictive analytics. Analytics is a term across the country. People are getting degrees in analytics. Economists are big into analytics. And the key word in Remine when you use it is predictive analytics. To me, you would tag this product along with our Realist system. You know how we have Matrix to look at listings, and then we have a Realist, which is our public records database. This plus Matrix plus Realist gives you just a huge view of a property utilizing resources at your fingertips. So what Remine does is we actually have a site license for all of our members, and we actually upped that site license about 1 year ago. So we got like our first site license, and we could cart 100 properties, and everybody thought that was just amazing. Carting is just like when you buy something online, you put it in a cart. And what agents like to do is they like to track property, if you will, in this tool. So our site license allows you to cart 10,000 properties in this tool. Remine is also one of the first players that I've seen that came up with what we call a sell score, like how likely is somebody to sell the property. And they'll put a low, a medium, or a high tag on a property. Remine also has, for people that are associated with property, they'll have a tag called a buy score. So anytime you see a contact on a property that's associated with it, It would be, based on how long they've lived there, census information, neighborhood information, how likely would they be to buy. And Remine updates that information so they don't just tack a score on. In the back end, they're computing data all the time. And you can see here in my slide that the sell score is updated every 15 days and the buy score is updated every 30 days. And then associated people, anytime you see that on a property, when I show you a property today, it's basically just, phone numbers, bills, utilities, credit reports, all these different ways that they can track somebody to a property. And it just helps you, get to know a person better. They're also good with property history. We can go to tax records a lot and see property history. Sometimes if you ask the homeowner, hey, what's been going on with this property, they don't know too much. So we love it when we can get a lot of property history, and that is updated every 30 days and it goes back 20 years. When they do demographics, and they start giving you those key components about income and age and things like that for census tract, they are tighter. They'll do a zip +4 demographic. So it's a smaller segment to help you understand the area better. So you're starting to see now just from my slide, hopefully it's making you want to take a bite out of the apple, that you can see so many things in this tool that help you get to know a neighborhood better. And when they called it Remine, I'm guessing here, but it's basically mining for data, mining for data at your fingertips to help you engage deeper into a neighborhood and plant what we call seeds and help people out. We also have what we call, they'll have active mortgages there. If anybody's taken out an active mortgage, that gets updated every 30 days. They have distressed information, and that is updated every 30 days. They have great estimated value tools. I know a lot of your customers are going to want to talk to you about what Zillow said to them about an update and an estimated value. But First American is somebody that they use, and First American does the most refis, and Black Knight is the largest repository. And so those two estimators compared with your other estimators that people go out and take a look at and assessed values on property, just help you get to know a property deeper. What did they pay for it? If I were to ask you, what do you want to know about a property? Who owns it? What did they pay for it? What are the sales in the area? What is it assessed at from the county level? And then what are the estimated values? And that's all predictive, right? So when they have First American and Black Knight on these properties, it's great. We love that. And then the thing I want you to remember about Remine is the blue dot is key. So anytime you are looking at property inside the Remine tool, you want to zoom into the blue dot level and just click on it and be nosy. And I'll show you those. I'll give you an example today during our workshop of a property so you can get a feel for what we're looking at. So that is why we have the tool, to be quite honest with you and blunt today. If you do look at the sell score, like I told you, and even Realist has a sell score now too, those are always machine learning models. And so what Remine will tell you in their support and as a company is they really want to look behind the scenes and see who's more likely to sell within 6 months to a year than the other surrounding properties. I had an agent the other day just talk about, like people get to know databases very quickly in the real estate industry. And so there's the listing database where things are on the market. And then there's just property that is off the market. As far as I'm concerned, property that's off the market is yours to go grab, right? And so right now, quite frankly, is a good time to help people with property because we have a low inventory rate. And when we have low inventory, if they put their property on the market, a lot of times, because there's not a lot of inventory and a lot of stuff competing with them, they might be able to sell faster. So who can help them with that? You guys can, right? So when you see Remine, when you look at it, when you see high scores, medium scores, low scores, or a disabled score for an active listing, it just helps you understand a little bit more about back-end analytics that are going on behind the scenes. Okay. So that's what Remine is known for as well. And sometimes, like in this example, you could combine a sell score with ownership time with home equity to really identify owners who are more likely and would have the resources to move into a different setting than less likely. Okay. So the fact that they even want to do a sell score, I think is great. Now, talking about the product suite with Remine, for those of you who haven't tried it yet, we've got, mini CE classes going on right now about all of our products, and Remine, we're really honing in on it because we actually have 3 products with them. So take a look at this screenshot right now. When you come into FMLS with your FMLS username and password, you have access to a plethora of products. Using your ID, you just get in and you can use them. And so a lot of them we have classes on and we go, this is why you want to use this product. And so with Remine, we have a product suite. And when you come in and you activate your site license, you just accept the end user license agreement. On the left-hand side, it will have a list of things that you can do in Remine with searching. And then if you scroll down, you'll have the Remine apps. You have actually 3 products with Remine that you have access to as a member of FMLS. You have Remine Pro, which is the search engine to search any property in the state of Georgia and nationwide. You have Docs Plus, which is our newest upgrade to our transaction management. So for those of you who like to do transaction management and you want to be paperless, we have access to Docs Plus, which we are heavily teaching right now. And I'll give you the timeline for that in a minute. We have also another product called Remine Add Edit, and I've had a lot of agents ask me about that as well. We have a lot of members that are a member of both FMLS and Georgia MLS. And so Remine has what we call a workflow of tools. If you think about it, you could search for a property in Remine Pro, and just search. You could actually add a transaction using Docs Plus. And then you could add a listing through Remine and have it go to Matrix and be an active listing in FMLS, and then also send it to Georgia MLS if you would like. So our dual members, people that are brokers and offices, they have listings going to FMLS and also to Georgia MLS. A lot of our brokers really like having this tool. Some in the past have used Swift. Some have used Bridge. It just depends on, what your preference is. If you want to have what we call a dual entry tool, and everybody's loving the Add Edit tool. So that's all in, does a broker give you the capability to add and enter a listing into the database? But these are the 3 products that we have with Remine. Again, the search engine, the Docs Plus, and the Add Edit. So tips, Remine itself stays logged in for 2 hours. And I say that because sometimes you'll get on a long phone call and you won't understand why it logged you out. So when you have a username and a password and you have access to tools, you can't just stay in them all day if you're not working on them. So just remember, if you get logged out, just log back in. And whenever you're clicking on Remine Docs Plus, just so you know, to add a transaction in, if it doesn't open up on the first try, double check your pop-up blocker. A lot of agents that I've run into have a pop-up blocker turned on, and that typically happens in Safari, just so you know. So just disable your pop-up blocker and you should be good to go when you want to open up the Docs Plus tool. And then just like any tool, it's going to be programmed off of the latest and greatest browsers. So I would just keep that in mind that if you are, using your computer every day, Chrome, Safari, Firefox, whatever it is, please make sure that you keep your browser up to date. And, I've seen so many updates come through these days on my computer, and I can only imagine what's happening on yours. So always keep your browsers up to date and keep your operating systems up to date and your Windows up to date. That just helps you all, okay? Another thing that I really like to tell people about Remine is it has a real good, just like Matrix does, it has a great extensive contacts database. And I will tell you, if you are using Remine Docs Plus, you will be able to put your contacts into Remine and they will carry over into Remine Docs Plus, just so you know. So keep that in mind, when we look at a property. And then the next thing I want to go over, I'm still in my slideshow right now, is the Remine app. The Remine app, is to keep you mobile and portable. So all of you have access to the Play Store, the App Store on your devices. You can see my screenshot right here for the Remine app, where you can go in and look for it in the App Store or the Play Store. It's a coral color. And I'm hoping that all of you, after today's workshop, will go in and download it. Usually during class, people will go, "Oh, Sallie, I downloaded that app and it was great." So please take advantage of that. If you want the mobile capability of, using this tool, searching for property when you get out of the car and your phone is on and you open up the app, it'll just tell you about that property when you tap it. It also has the docs capability on the app. So you would be able to get in and click on docs and see your transactions. I've actually signed a document using the app. And you can see on this next slide where it talks about, the capability of creating a transaction. The smaller the screen, the harder it is to read a screen. But I will tell you, if you want mobile, you have the capability of the app. And here's what Remine would look like, depending on your devices. It's all about the blue dot, like I was telling you. It's got some great layering. So it is very portable when you have the app on your device. It's important to download the app on a mobile device. Okay. Now let's talk about Remine Docs Plus. For those of you who have not been to our classes for Remine or Remine Docs Plus, I do want to just hone in on our time frame right now because we're in transition. We are upgrading all of our members from rDocs to Remine Docs Plus. And so I want to share that with you so you understand that you could use it today. We've been teaching our CE class since February, and I'll give you some dates right now to kind of be aware of and some functionality to be aware of as well. We have what we call a legacy tab, where it's transferring over documents in your tiles of rDocs over to the legacy icon in Remine Docs Plus in your My Transactions area. It's the top right-hand corner when you get into Remine Docs Plus. And you want to just double check that area if you're wanting to see if those documents came over. We have old vendor, new vendor, and we know that your documents are very valuable to you. And so we try really hard from old vendor to new vendor to carry over documents that are important to you. So they'll be in the legacy icon in the top right-hand corner. At any point in time, I tell agents all the time, you can go into rDocs right now and check off documents and email them to yourself if you wanted to. You have that capability for storage at all times. But we do like this legacy tab for our members and having that available to you. We also have something, I'm going to show you a slide on it in a minute, called MLS Visibility. And this is great for a listing agent. I don't know if you've ever been on a matrix listing before, but the agent can put photos on their listing. They can put the showing time icon on their listing and all that great stuff. And they can put documents on their listing. And our document management tool has always been able to house the documents, things like seller disclosures, community association exhibits on listings. So what I would share with you today is if you put in a transaction in Remine Docs Plus and you load a document, you would be able to check it off and say, make it visible on my FMLS listing, and here's the listing number, and we would see it on your matrix listing immediately. And that's very important for us, that our doc management systems house and store and allow you to post those documents on your matrix listings. So that at 10 o'clock at night, if you get a call from somebody who's looking at your listing and they're like, oh, can you send me the seller disclosure? You're like, oh my gosh, it's already on my listing. Just go click on docs, go click on the documents icon. And they go, oh, perfect, thank you. That's the true time saver there. And then the last three items are all about rDocs. It's going to go into what we call edit only mode on October 27th. And it's going to go into what we call read only mode on December 1st. And our old document management system, rDocs, will be retired effective December 31st. So you have some time, to play around with Remine Docs Plus and add a transaction. I'll add one for you today, and you can just see what it looks like. And then, of course, we have the classes as well. Remine Docs Plus, if you don't know what it is all about forms completion, e-signature, and transaction management. It's going to have huge bells and whistles where we can auto-populate listing data. And then, of course, you'll have access to all the forms. If you use GAR forms, great. If you use RE forms, great. Brokers have tools. It has a beautiful markup tool. And it has a lot of, storage, if you will. It has alerts that go out to let you know somebody has signed a document, etc. And then this is my slide. This is the last slide that I'll show you today, and then I'll go in live. It talks about MLS visibility, displaying your document on your FMLS listing in Matrix. So what you would be able to do is just create a transaction, and super easy. You just load like your seller disclosure statement if you want to, check it off and say MLS visibility. And you actually pop in your listing number and say, make it visible to everybody on my listing. Okay. So those are the slides that I wanted to show you today. I hope you feel comfortable with those as we take off in our session. And that's my overview, if you will. And now as far as live goes, I'm going to go ahead and open up FMLS. And what you'll see here is a big article about rDocs and how it's being retired, like I was telling you in the slideshow. And then basically what you want to do is physically just go in and play with the Remine product and the Remine Docs Plus product. It is there for everybody to use. And it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful tool, if you will. So how do you get in to Remine? You can come over to products and you can click on Remine if you need to. And basically Remine looks like this. It's very easy to see the daily dashboard, if you will. The daily dashboard is great to give you these property cards, and you can get listing updates. You can see your own listings, your office listings. You can see market pulse, what's going on. This is all coming over from Matrix, all of our active listings and, things that have sold. And basically you can customize those if you need to. For a zip code, you just come down here and click zip code, or you duplicate, these cards. That's really helpful, just to get a big picture on your desktop as to what's going on. But the main thing in Remine that I was telling you about is the searching. So I'm going to come on in and I'm going to click on search. And I'm going to put in an address just to kind of give you a feel for what a property looks like. And then I will talk about the layers. So up here is the searching area. It gives you the capability to search for addresses, cities, zip codes, neighborhoods. And then over here, it gives a nationwide search as well. So if I wanted to search an address, I would just type it in and it'll start to recall things that I've been doing down in here. And you can clear that out if you need to, if it gets too large, but it's like a history of your searches. And so I'm going to type out an address, and I think that's the easiest way to get into a neighborhood. Again, if you think about it, if you just listed a property in a neighborhood, or you just sold a property in a neighborhood, or you were curious about a property, the thinking in Remine is map, like everything's visual. So when you start to type out an address and then you come and find it, you can either look at all the property details, which I will, or just show it on the map. And when you click show on the map, I tell agents it'll physically just bring the blue dots straight to your screen. Okay. So if you search by zip code, you're going to have to zoom in, right? Because it's going to outline the whole zip code. But if you search by a property address and map it, now I'm in the neighborhood. So I think that is the easiest way to get into a neighborhood. And you all can type out whatever address you would like. If you don't want that particular address, if that's not the one you're interested in, it's nice. You can just go look at the roads. You can change this view to a satellite view imagery, or just click on something that you are interested. You're like, oh yeah, that one's 2 doors down. That's the one I need. And you click on it. And then over here on the right, which is just amazing, in addition to your view, it's telling you how many blue dots you have, up here, like, hey, you've got 101 results here, and they're all listed here. And like we were talking about with regard to cell score, like when you click on a blue dot, like I clicked on this blue dot, it's going to come over here to the right, and you'll get things like estimated value. Of course, this is telling you, hey, that's off the market. You'll get things like estimated equity right there in front of you. Bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, you'll see the owner. And when you click on the address, that's when you're opening up the property. So if I had chosen not to just display it on the map, if I had chosen just to open up the property, this is what Remine is all about, okay? So individually, once you know what the data is that Remine gives you, then you can put 2 and 2 together to get to know the neighborhood better. So this is the first thing that I typically go over with agents when they're learning about Remine. I just go over the data, right? Because once you understand the data, then you can understand how to work the Remine tool and fine tune the blue dots to only get the blue dots that you want. So over here on the left, it's going to give you the capability to take a look at estimated value again. And then it'll summarize, the address and what type of property it is and who it's owned by. And it'll say, hey, this has been owned by this person for X amount of years, because it's looking at, when they bought the property, okay? Also, you have the capability to share this property, print it, do some other, what I call workflow work with it. That would make sense to you. Maybe you need to do a CMA, maybe you need to create a listing, maybe you need to go into transaction management and create a transaction. So that's that whole workflow that I was talking about. Up here are the tabs for all of the information that you get with the particular record that comes back. And so the first section is maps. And when you click on any of these, it's going to give you all 4, okay? So if I click on view map right here, It does parcel information with lot dimensions. It does flood risk information where you can even click on the FEMA map number and go straight to FEMA. It does location information where you can get a satellite view real quick if you need to. And it does street view information. So no matter where you are, if you're in Fayetteville, if you're in Covington, if you're in Conyers, if you're in Duluth, you're going to get the same capability in the mapping area. And it's amazing. Like the street view is just unbelievable. It's so clear to me. And this is all done by Google, just so you know. And that's great in our virtual world. So any tools that can bring back that information, just help us to get to know that individual property better. Sometimes you will see the capability to purchase a plat. I say purchase because plats you have to purchase. They're a couple dollars. And if it does have a plat available, then you would be able to, pay for a plat right here using this tool. The other things that you can see are, especially with off-market information, things that you need to know, like who owns it? Do they occupy the property? What's the legal description? When was the property built? How much square footage is on file, with the county? And our realist system does that too, beautifully. But these are also being brought in by the Remine tool. And I love, right here, they have the most recent taxes. So you'll see taxes, the tax amount, tax year. And like I was telling you, this is very important with the land plus the improvements, all those assessments, adding up to then translate into what they call market value. And that's coming from the county. So here you can see for 2020, the market value is about 233. And then some estimated value over here about 259, and they have about 158 estimated equity. And that's helpful to you to learn more as an agent about an off-market property. And everything is going to be estimated, right? They can't tell you if the customer has already paid off their mortgage, right? They can just tell you if they had one on a certain time. So let's keep going down. When you keep going down, again, there's net equity estimated and estimated loan balance. And they're getting all this from, when you see down below in the property history, different pieces of mortgage information. So as we scroll down, you can also see that there's, there was in 2003, a 30-year 6.33 loan taken out for 152, who the lender was. And, quite frankly, it would take you hours and days to get this information somewhere else. So between this and our realist system, I think you can get a lot of data. And then I'll just go through the valuation tab. Right in here, it will have an average valuation. And that's where I was talking about with the First American and Black Knight information with the estimated values right in here. Those are two very big repositories for data. And you can see that they will use the First American estimated value right here in the top left of a property that is off market. Okay. So that's why you see the 259, 154 right there. And then they use a resource for schools called Niche, just so you know. Niche does a grading system. I know there's greatschools.org out there, but you would be able to take a look at the schools nearby, all of them, separate them out by elementary, middle, and high school in the area, and look at that information if you need to. And then Niche also explains itself about scores down in the bottom where it says powered by Niche, and learn about schools. Okay. Demographics, that's really helpful in a neighborhood. That's the zip +4 that I was talking to you about. So it's a tighter segment, and they'll give you 5 key demographics. Property history is huge. So that next section, when you click it, you'll get property information, who sold it, who bought it, when did this person sell it, who did they sell it to, and of course Cindy Jackson is the current owner. since 1999. But you have 3 other tabs here. You have mortgage information, where you can click and see all the mortgage information. You can see tax information, and that's great. The homeowner has a hard time telling you about taxes and what they are. And then assessments. So if you need to, any of the property history, it'll be property, mortgage, tax, and assessments. You just click on those links to go get that information at your fingertips. And then the last key is what we call associated people. This is the first company that I have seen where they will, basically show you anybody who has been associated with the property. I mean, we know that Cindy Jackson, of course, is associated with the property, but, a lot of times people can then be added as contacts in this tool. And then you start to get to know the people a little bit better. And there's nothing wrong with clicking on add to contacts and bringing this person over here to kind of monitor their buy score, if you will. Right now this is a low buy score, but Remine will let you click this add to contacts and it'll pull that person over here to contacts so that you can kind of track them a little bit. Of course, the DNC means do not call. So, you have to be careful. But if you are listing and selling property in this neighborhood and then you happen to meet these people, because you had an open house and you start to establish a relationship with them, again, you're just keeping your name in front of the people as you start engaging and sending out information about what you do in real estate. So that's a property. And you can also see when you, hold on one second, just trying to move this a little bit so I can get to my toolbar, but I can't move it. Open up a property, you can close that tab up at the top. And then also you have the capability to click on Remine if you need to and come over back to the search. So the property will stay up in a tab, if you will, until you use the X to close it. So with that said, I'm going to go back to search on the left-hand side, or I can click on Remine right here. And I'm going to stay right here because I don't get you for very long today. I know you typically do your meetings for about 45 minutes, and I definitely want to allow for questions. But the search area, whenever you're searching and you come into this level, again, you can click on a blue dot like I just did and look at property. Or you can say, what, I really want to get to know this neighborhood a little bit better. And what do I have over here with my site license that's going to help me? So for instance, if you wanted to see who has a certain amount of equity in a property, you could click on home equity right there. And you could layer and see who has, more equity versus less. You could put in your dollar amount for equity and it will analyze all these blue dots. So home equity is great. I mean, we love it when people have a lot of equity. So if these homes, sold, in the 90s for, let's say, 150 or whatever, they might have some equity if people are still living there. And then equity builds, of course, as people start living in those properties longer and market value goes up and all those factors that you're used to. So I can do, who has 0 to 250 equity right here and click apply. Okay, so I just checked off that layer, and when I click apply, it'll remove the other blue dots on the screen. Those dots will go blank, and all these blue dots are people who have 0 to 250 in equity, right? Home equity, and all that's estimated. So that we call those filters, if you will, and anytime you want to type something in on a filter, you can, or you can just what I call layer. So I'm going to do a couple quick layers right in here. I'm going to click on, I did home equity, ownership time, I love. There's a big thing in the industry where, you know, sometimes people need to stay there a little while to build up some equity to then be able to move again. So ownership time really is helpful. If somebody's been there, you know, 10 to 15 years, they might be more likely to move than somebody who's been there 0 to 5. Somebody who's been there 0 to 5 years might know somebody who wants to live in this neighborhood. So you might market to them and say, you know, hey, do you guys have any buyers, you know, that want to buy this house and I'm listing over here? So you use ownership time for your reasons. You could say right here, I need 7 to 12, and it'll go look up all those properties that are on your screen in your view. And when you click apply, it'll remove the blue dots of people who haven't been there 7 to 12 years. And then these blue dots are a list over here on the right of properties who have ownership time of 7 to 12 years. So just to put 2 and 2 together, I could click list right here. And I could just go take a look at those 10 results. I'll go back to map. But basically, it's going to do a list for me of those particular properties, and I would be able to click on them on the right, and I could scroll to those properties very quickly and see them. Okay. So I'm going to close out of the ownership time and just go through a couple more. Sell score is another one. Remember the high, the low, the medium. You could look for people with medium sell scores and be interested in those. Absentee owners, like I had a lady the other day ask me about that, you know, if you want absentee in state or out of state. And then down here, you have more. So I'm going to keep going. It's your job after class to come click on all these, but mortgage rate, like, you know how rates are really low right now? You could see who has lower rates versus higher rates, and maybe coordinate with a lender to kind of help some people out. You could look at last sale prices in the area and all these other items that we have in our site license. You could look at cash buyers. That was one of the first things that I did, was look at all the cash buyers. And then look at people who maybe don't have a mortgage anymore. And so they might have a lot of value and equity in their properties. So super cool stuff right in there that I would love for you to think about when you are looking for results. And then of course you can use all these other filters up in here. Our FMLS listings will come in. So if I search a zip code and then I want to see statuses, you know, that are active and pending and all that good stuff, I can. And then it just becomes this organic way of looking at properties. And anytime you find a property that you like, you click on the property on the blue dot, okay? And then you can, what I call, cart it and track it. So when I click cart, it'll say to me, hey, do you want to track this? You know, and what cart do you want to put it in, right? And so I could just say, I want to, you know, create my own Ivy Station cash cart, you know, people that paid cash, right? And I'll create that and I'll add this property. And I know these people paid cash, right? And when I go over here to the left, I have carts. So that's about all I can tell you right now for time frame. If you are interested in more of this, trust me, there's so much. Like, you can track whole neighborhoods and cart 10,000 properties. You can see for Sugarloaf Country Club, I have 1,200 properties here. I can check them all off. I can add notes. I can take a look at sell scores. I can see owners. I can see equity that's estimated. You know, at this point, I'm just going on and on and on. There's so much you can do. You can do mailing labels for people. You can export data. You can coordinate with Rocket to send out a mailer, those you pay for, but sending mailers, when somebody just does it for you, that's amazing. So that is a little bit about the Remine tool. And I'm going to also go into the Docs Plus tool, because that is another piece. So I'm going to stop at the Remine tool, click on Docs Plus, show you what it looks like, and then I'll take questions if that will work for you all. So we're in heavy mode right now for Docs Plus. And when you come into Docs Plus, you get a whole dashboard where you can create a transaction. You can see your transactions and work them, and you have all these libraries where you can create what we call packages, subsets of the forms. You can add some clauses in there and use those in your transactions. But to create a transaction, it's super easy. It can be for any property in the whole state of Georgia because you have a license in the whole state of Georgia. You basically come here for Docs Plus, you just click create a transaction. You tell the system if you're on the buying side or the listing side. So if you're on the listing side and it's, you know, Sam's seller, right? And Sam wants to sell 678 Main Street in Fayetteville, right? And he's a seller, you could name your transaction that. And if you don't have your listing number, that's fine, you can skip it. And you just come down and you add Sam seller's name as the full legal name of the seller. So Sam calls you, wants you to list his property, and you're on the listing side, you just name your transaction, you put in the name of the client, their full legal name, and then you click next. And so when Sam wants to sell his property, you're gonna, of course, go grab an exclusive right to sell for Sam. And depending on if you're a GAR user or an RE user, you know, depends on which form you're going to use. So it's either going to be the F101 or the RE151. So we have a 50-50 split with FMLS people. Some use the GAR forms, some use the RE forms. And then basically you just come on down after you pull your forms, just, you know, the transaction is created at that point. And it's very similar to other document management. It's got lots of bells and whistles here. You can continue adding more forms, upload forms that you got from the outside and mark those up. You get a transaction email address, and then you start completing your forms. So if I want to, you know, take a look at this smart form with you all, what people are learning right now is what is a smart form. And a smart form is already pre-populated, pre-templated. It's going to have, you know, people on it that have roles, you know, who's signing, what are their names. And then it's going to let you fill out the particular, you know, information. You can either auto pop using your FMLS listing information that you got, or you just start typing in, you know, manually entering in that address to the forms. And what happens is they automatically save in this system as you start typing. So anything you type out, you know, of course, you can go get a listing number and it'll just even auto-populate more, especially if you're on the buyer side. But on the seller side, you start filling out the information and it saves as you move along, okay? When you are looking at a smart form, you'll have the capability, like I said, to type out all the information here. You can take a look at the people, you know, that are transacting and edit them if needed or add more. You can also fill it out really quickly by looking at the fields, and everybody loves this. It's cut the time in half. So you just come into a form, you go straight to fields and you fill it out and it automatically saves all the data. And then you actually on each document have history. And that history starts to build an audit report and all the edits that you're making. And so I'm going to go back to document right here on this transaction. What we've been teaching people is, you know, once you fill it out, you know, the signature part of the tool, you can send this off to the client to sign or have them sign in person. And so right in here, if I click sign, you know, if I'm ready to sign, that allows me to jump in, you know, and sign the document. So I'll give you an example of what a signature looks like. And then I'll open up for questions. I'm going to go ahead and click continue right here. Normally you would send to the client to sign. They have to have a unique email address. But anytime you want to jump in and sign something, when it's your turn, you just, you know, click sign. It'll already be pre-templated on a smart form. And it literally is recording what you're doing right here. I will just tell you the back end is amazing. It's just recording that little number right there. And it's going to tell you on page 8, you know, at 10:49, you did this work on a desktop using Google Chrome on this IP address. You know, that's e-signature. You know, that's transaction management right there. And then you click done. And then you can send it off, you know, for signature. So anytime you want to send something off to somebody to sign, you click send. It's a very simple system. You click continue. It'll give you a screen like this, you know, so no longer do we have 6 steps for, you know, for e-sign. You'll just be able to pick your document, pop in Sam's email address. It has to be a unique email address, and then you'll be able to check off that you'd like to send it to that client. And then type a message in and send it off. And then they sign it. And it just tracks all that like typical document management would. So I'll cancel out of that. And I'm going to use the back button. And that starts to build your transactions, if you will. So I've got, you know, Sam Seller. He wants to sell 67 Main Street in Fayetteville. I've got, you know, a builder. I've got Jane. I've got, you know, Caroline. Any buyers that you want to add, you just keep adding your transactions and they will show up here and you'll be able to check them off, you know, download them, get info on them, and they'll just store here. And then when they're done, you just close them out. So that is an overview of the transaction area based on the time allotted. I'll say it like that. And then on the left, you have different libraries. Like for instance, I've been coaching a lot of agents to come on in to the package libraries and physically, you know, create some packages. Like I have a new construction package. Let's just say you get a call to list new construction. If you put stuff in a package right here, you would be able to use that set of forms at any time. So you're just adding content, pulling your forms, and then when you go add a transaction, you know, when you click on new transaction, you add it, you would be able to come to packages and pick that whole package. And it just makes so much sense. Agents have loved this over the years, being able to pick the whole package and bring that whole thing in. And then you scroll down here and you're like, add this, add this, add this. And then it'll come right in to that particular transaction. Okay. And clauses over here on the left are just special steps in our market. And you can create all your different clauses, type them out. They'll show here, and use those in your special steps area of the forms. And then checklist libraries, for instance, like I did a pre-approval stage checklist. I just added it, and you know, all these tasks, when I add them into the transaction, I would be able to check off that we have done those steps. So for instance, in transactions, if I go to ABC Builders, if we are in contract to close phase, I can select that checklist and or listing phase, you know, whichever. I can check both of those if I want to and add those in. And a lot of brokers love that because it's like, you need to do this. You need to make sure that, you know, the seller does this. And so when you check this off or click on it, these checklist items will come in. You know, have we done the exclusive right to sell? Have we done the seller disclosure? Have we put the listing in? We set it up for showing time. Have we added the photos? You could just check off that you did all those items. And then every time you come into the transaction, you could use your checklist just to see what you've done. And I love that. So we've got a lot of time savers here. And the last thing is what we call the PDF markup tool. So anytime you want to bring in a document from the outside, you know, whether it's a counter offer or whatever, you can forward it in using the email address, or you can just I'll bring in 2 documents right in here. They'll come in as PDFs, and you guys are used to marking up PDFs all the time. And basically, whether you use this email address to forward the document in or not, you can just open up the documents, from the other side and start using what we call markup tools. So you would be able to, put your seller signature down at the bottom, if you will, and placehold that and send it off for them to sign. I'm going to just drag it right there. But normally you drag that at the bottom, right? And you come over here and you click done, and it'll placehold that. So let me delete that because that's not going to be in the right place. So I would literally, come down to the document, pop in whatever it was I needed, and start placeholding, my side of the transaction. Okay. So purchase and sales, initials you can do draw tools, text boxes, dates. That's all there. And I'll go over here to the covenants and just do markups on that one so you can see. This is just a document. You can take any document and play today. And basically, if I need my client's initials right here, I just pop it in there and then come over here to the right and click done. If I need my client's signature down at the bottom, like I was telling you on a document, you make it a PDF. And then you just grab things like signature and date. You can move this over, up, down. And you've got great tools over here. And then you have some real neat draw tools. You have strike throughs, which look like this, where you just draw a line. And you can color those. If you want a certain color, you can make them a little bit thicker if you need to. And then you might get your client to initial those. And I'll do one more strike through. You have crossed out rectangles that are like this, that are great as well. And then of course, text boxes and dates, all the things you would be expecting in a PDF markup tool. So like when you insert a text box, you're typing out information like, hey, this is revised, October 15th of 2020. And you come over to the right and you click done, and those go in, and then you send that off to your client to sign. So it's 10:57, my friends. I hope you have a better idea as to why we have this workflow for Remine and Remine Docs Plus. And if you ever want to, let me go back to the Remine tab, go into Add Edit and check it out. You can just click on the Add Edit tool. It'll load it, and you'll be able to create a listing right in here. And that's what I wanted to talk about for Tech Thursday with your group at Maximum One. So I am done with my presentation, and I will just open up the floor to anybody that would like to ask questions. I'll be available. I don't know how you typically do that in your class setting.
We have the chat section. So if you guys have any questions, just post it in chat, and Miss Sallie will answer those as soon as she gets them.
Okay. So I hope you guys liked what you saw. I know I delivered a lot today, but boy, is this a powerful set of tools. It's in addition to what you have now. So it's just one extra tool that we have in addition to Matrix and Realist and all the other tools you have access to. Any questions? So yes, the cell score, great question. I think it's Chayla. Let me go back to my slide. They're proprietary with some of their information. All these vendors, they're gonna have, and I also have another slide as well in a different PowerPoint that I'll show you. But basically it comes in, oh, Lisa, thank you guys so much. The sales score, you know, comes in high, low, or medium, and they're going to use all these different back end options. And so basically, let me close out of this real quick. Weird. Oops. Sorry, I just had something come up in a different screen and I want to close it. There we go. So basically, let me open up another PowerPoint for you. They'll have it documented as well, Jayla, but let me see if I can find my other slide in a different PowerPoint. So just bear with me for just a second. I have a lot of things open to make this Zoom meeting happen. So let me go to my Remine PowerPoint that I talk about in the CE class and see if I can find that other slide about the sales score. There we go. This was what you were asking. So they use weighted values. You can see in the second paragraph right here. They're going to use property attributes, square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, property value, financial information, neighborhood information with variables, and all these data points, if you will. And so it's weighted and it gets updated all the time. I don't know when you came into the meeting, but I had a slide up there as to they'll update every 30 days, I think, the sales score. Let me double check that slide as well. Back on this. Hold on one second. Every 15 days, and then buy score is updated every 30 days. But they use back-end data is the answer to your question. There's just property attributes, financial information, neighborhood information, and all that comes together for them for the sales score. And, you know, to me, it's better to have a sales score versus nothing. You may know more, like, no, these people are not, you know, going to transact soon. And they might have a medium sales score. Just depends. But weighted values is your answer. Okay, what else do we have? Let me look. I don't think I have anything else. Okay, well, go and play with the tool. Thank you guys so much for attending. And Wordsworth, thanks so much for setting this up. It was a pleasure to meet you today, and I look forward to serving you all in the future.
Thank you so much again. This video was recorded, everyone, and it'll be available in a few minutes in the Tech Thursday workplace group. Again, we want to thank Miss Sallie for coming in and doing this with us, and we hope we can set up some more training with her in the future. So if you guys have no more questions, we are gonna head on out. So again, it was good seeing everybody today. So y'all have a great day.
Oh, thank you. And thanks, Sheila. It's good to see you too. And y'all have a wonderful afternoon, okay?
All righty, bye-bye.
All right, bye.